What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Let's Learn. Today we're not learning a song. Today I'm going to talk to you about my new Journey Instruments OF660M. Okay, it's a carbon fiber travel guitar, and I know I should save this till the end, but I'm going to tell you right now, in my opinion, it's probably the best travel guitar you can get. Alright, so here's why. We're going to start off talking about what's really good about this guitar. So the thing that makes this unique, there are two things. Thing one is that it is entirely carbon fiber all through the body and all through the neck. And what that means is that it's going to be really consistent for you. It's going to really hold up well in the elements. So if you travel a lot to different climates, for example, if you are going to somewhere tropical and it's really hot and humid, or if you go somewhere really dry, you're not going to have the usual issues that you have with guitars in these environments where it's like they fluctuate as they take on and lose moisture and you get cracks and all these things. So that's no longer a concern. The second thing that makes this really great for travel is that the neck comes off and the whole thing packs into this backpack that's included with it. So I'll show you that real quick. There are lots of videos online that demonstrate this a little bit more thoroughly, so I'll go over it relatively quick. Basically, there's this wing nut on the back, and you unscrew this and then press the release button here, and the neck pops off. So it's a little bit awkward with the strap on, but nonetheless, here's how this goes. You can kind of feel when it comes loose. Just press the button and the neck comes off. Okay? So easy as that. And then to keep the strings from going everywhere, there's this black plastic string retainer just above the net. That works really well. And to put it back on, I could show you how to pack it into the bag. It's really straightforward, and there's a nice protective sheet that I'll show you later that keeps the strings from scratching up the body or anything like that. So to put the neck back on, you just set the heel into this groove on the front, in case you didn't see that before. Just set it in there, and you just hold the body steady with your legs, and you just push them together like this, and they snap into place. After that, you just tighten up the wing nut again, and you want to make sure that as you do it, you're pressing the neck into the body. Otherwise, the neck is going to be tilted forward a little bit, and that's going to make the action high and going to make the intonation a little bit off. So you have to use a little bit of muscle, but again, it's carbon fiber, it can take it. And when it's all packed up into the bag and everything, this bag fits into the overhead compartment of a train or a plane or anything like that. So if you've ever seen those videos online of different airlines that basically destroy guitars as they're put into checked baggage, that is not going to be a concern with this. All right, that looks about right. And we can see it's basically still perfectly in tune. All right, now realistically, what I found with this is that as I pack it into the bag, the tuning pegs tend to get jostled a little bit, so it isn't always perfectly out of tune when I take it out again. But you know, that's no big deal. I always carry a little tuner in one of the pockets anyway. No big deal. So real quick, let's see how it sounds. First, I'll let you hear what it's like with the pickup, and then without the pickup, just being picked up by this microphone. So G, C, D, G. A little bit of strumming. Okay, so to my ear, it sounds pretty good. Carbon fiber guitars traditionally are pretty tinny sounding, and this isn't. This sounds nice and full. It is quieter because it's a smaller size guitar. It's a travel guitar. That's normal. And travel guitars also traditionally are pretty tinny. And again, you don't really hear that with this guitar. They chalk it up to a bunch of stuff they've done with positioning of the sound hole and the way they've made the body this sort of wedge shape where it's wider here than it is on the top side. I don't know how much of that is true. All I know is that I like how it sounds. Now, you'll probably find the pickup sounds pretty janky, and that's kind of the way it is. It's a passive pickup. Frankly, anywhere that I go, whether it's this guitar or any of my other guitars, I've got a Takamine, and I've also got a handmade guitar that are both beautiful guitars, but I always run them through an equalizer pedal anyway when I perform live. It's going to be the same with this guitar, and when I run it through an EQ, it still sounds great. And for what it's worth, again, like my EQ pedal can fit in this upper pocket here, so I always have it with me, and I put my patch cords down here. It's no problem at all. All right, so that's what's good. And of course, the great thing about this guitar, if I had to choose one thing, is the fact that it can pack up like that, and it just travels so well. Again, nothing really compares. They also make wood versions of this guitar that are a little bit less expensive. Personally, I would trust that less. I feel like you lose some of the advantages of the carbon fiber when you do that, and it's probably going to be less tolerant to the stresses you're putting on it, taking the neck on and off. Nonetheless, I know there are many artists that do have those and have been happy with them, so who's to say? All right, now I need to move on to what's not so great about this guitar. Starting off from the get-go, I bought this about a year ago, and in fact, not this particular guitar. I have another one sitting on my couch right over there that I'm going to show you. And I bought that in, I believe it was late July of 2017, and we're now in May of 2018. And basically what happened was that, for one, I live in Canada, and they're particularly difficult to get here. I could only find about 2 stores that I could call on the phone, and they could confidently tell me, yes, we can get that guitar, and we'll have it for you. So I ended up buying it in British Columbia, and then I live in the east side of the country, so I had to ship it back and forth. And with all the shipping, and also, unfortunately, when I bought the guitar, the Canadian dollar was particularly weak. So all said and done, it cost me close to $1,800, which is a lot of money. And I want you to bear that in mind, because with this next section, I'm going to show you my other guitar. I'm going to point out a lot of just superficial manufacturing problems that I wasn't really okay with at that point. So with that in mind, I'll set this down. So you might think, well, this looks, at a glance, this looks fine. But the devil's in the details, as they say, and I'm going to include a lot of still pictures over this part of the video so you can better see what I'm talking about. So right out of the gate, I saw that in the sound hole, there were 2 little dings, and who knows what happened with that, but for a brand new guitar, that seemed kind of odd. The next thing I noticed was that the string retainer, again, this black piece of plastic that sits up by the nut, had some cracks in it. And at first I wasn't sure if they were cracks or if they were separations in the plastic that were part of the design, if that was a necessary design consideration for some reason that I just wasn't aware of. Nonetheless, that has since completely broken off, and you'll see in the pictures that it is just broken plastic. And even as I'm touching it now, more pieces want to come off. So I should stop picking at that. But those were a couple issues, and then all along the top and the bottom of the fingerboard, where the fret markers are, the paint is really blotchy. Again, you'll see it in the pictures. The next issue was that in this well, where the wing nut sits, there's a lot of resin just crusted onto the metal, and I believe that's because when they have this whole metal assembly for the wing nut fixture, they cut a hole in the carbon fiber and fixed the metal assembly in there with resin. I think they just got messy with it and they just left it. I've tried cleaning that off with my fingernail, haven't had any luck. Similarly, there was paint on the actual frets, and a lot of that I have been able to scrape off with my fingernail, but still not really the way it should be. And then finally, the matte black that I've opted for, it has an inconsistent finish. So there are some spots, like on the back, where it's fairly smooth and maybe a little bit noisy, but not too bad. In these scoop sections at the top and on the bottom, it's quite a bit rougher and it's quite a bit noisier. So if I have this plugged in and I'm performing and it rubs on my leg at all, that gets picked up, and it really kind of sounds bad. So where does that leave us? I've been back and forth via email with James Bronner. He's the North American rep for Journey Instruments over the last few months, and we've been talking, and they've been trying to sort me out. It's been a bit of a long road for various reasons. You know, there have been reasons why they couldn't do an exchange or couldn't do a refund or anything like that. And some of it is totally fair. I understand, these are manufactured in China, and often when you're having things manufactured in China, you have to work into their production cycles. If you're making a small batch of things, and the manufacturer that you're working with normally works with millions or thousands of things, then you are basically at the whims of their timetable. And I totally understand that. Nonetheless, it got to a point where they said, they've been having numerous manufacturing issues, and it got, for me, I just said, I get it, but that's kind of enough. So whatever you have in stock that is the best you have, whatever you think best represents your company, send me that. I'll send this one back, and they included a prepaid package for me to put this in the mail back to them, which is great. And so they sent me this. All right, and we'll talk a little bit about where we're at with this guitar. So with this guitar, right out the gate, I can see that the paint overall is much more consistent. It's also been applied a little bit thicker. So you can see in the picture that the carbon fiber weave that's visible on my first guitar is a little less apparent in this one. And that's kind of a shame because it looks pretty cool. But the trade-off with that is the paint, for example, along the sides of the neck, along the sides of the fingerboard, very consistent. There's no blotchiness to it. So overall, I think it's a good trade-off. The string retainer, it does have still some splits in the plastic, but these I do believe are by design. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it, but I think it's okay. The nut is set a little bit, well, it's not set flush with the neck. And functionally, I think that's okay, and it doesn't feel loose at all. But again, it's one of those manufacturing things where I think, this isn't hard to do right. Otherwise, the body is much smoother. There's no roughness here or on the underside. There's no resin left in the wing nut well. So overall, this is much better. I would say it's still not perfect. And there are also just some interesting little changes. For example, the Journey logo at the top is now, looks like some sort of inlaid, maybe metal. I don't think it's just paint. Whereas on the first guitar, it was abalone or a shell. So I know this is certainly cheaper to manufacture. Me personally, I don't really care. I think the metal looks fine. It matches the whole kind of industrial look of this thing. And otherwise, it's pretty good. I would say overall, in terms of how these sorts of things go, and you have to deal with the manufacturer and refunds or exchanges and things like that, Journey Instruments handled it just about as well as you can, I'd say. There were one or two little lapses in communication where I was sort of left wondering what's going on, but that was really quickly remedied. And I feel like, given the limitations of when you're manufacturing overseas like this, they really did do the best they can. And once again, in terms of travel guitars that you can not abuse, but that can withstand changes in climate and traveling around on planes and cars and things, this really is the best you can do, and you can count on it to perform well. It feels great. It sounds great, especially after you run it through an EQ pedal. So in terms of reliability, good way to go. At the end of the day, I would say if that's what you need, this is a good bet. Just when it comes to manufacturing, adjust your expectations accordingly, because they tell me this is as good as it gets, and this is kind of their pride and joy, and it's still not without its flaws. So bear that in mind. But if you can overlook those things, I think it's a solid bet. And that's it for now. So thanks for watching. My name's Dave, and I'll see you next time.